as many of you know, at 3D Repo, we sort of tend to release around every 6 to 8 weeks. We're following that kind of lean and agile process of software development. So that's really good for us because we get to introduce these new features to you on a kind of regular basis and start to get some feedback and start to really build our feature set. So what I'm going to show you today is our sort of first dip in a bit of a new world for 3D Repo. And we want to get you guys using it, get the feedback, and start to make improvements so that we can keep giving you the tool that you need and the tool that you want to solve the problems that you've got. So a quick introduction. My name is Matthew Osmond. I'm the product manager at 3D Repo. So I'm kind of in charge of taking any information that you guys as our users have and then pushing that into the product so that we have something, again, that's useful for you guys. So a quick reminder of what 3D Repo is. We're a cloud-based solution. We take your authored models from either your authoring system or your file formats that you can push directly into 3D Repo from our API. For the benefit of this webinar, we're going to be looking at the BIM coordination, health and safety risk register, data validation, and the GIS stuff. That's the real features that are going to be covered with our new add-ons today. Then we've also got access via the API. So you can not only pull that data out to view it in our web viewer, but you can also access it using Power BI, Excel. You can integrate your model files to pull directly from a site and from ProjectWise and all that sort of good stuff. So one of the things that we found as 3D Repo was that the BIM model that we were presenting typically represented the end result of a construction process. So we had, in some large infrastructure projects, a good couple of years of construction to build an asset, which then depreciated over time. So really the BIM model only represented the phase of the construction process towards the middle of that kind of project. So what we found was actually that what's more useful for people on site is having a hold in time to say where they'll be tomorrow, where they were yesterday, what the costs are, who they owe, what the health and safety risks are. And so we started to look at, okay, well, what exists in the industry to help you do that? So you've got Gantt charts, which can be tricky to follow for a layman. They're not very visual. They're not really showing you what's going on. Then we've got these other sorts of Gantt charts which stretch across and down, so you have to scroll up and down and you don't really see what's going on. And then we've got line of balance, which is really useful. But if you showed that to a person who's not familiar with scheduling, they'd kind of look at you and go, okay, well, that's great. I'm sure there's a lot of data there, but I don't really understand it. So obviously the industry solved this problem. It's called 4D, and we think 4D is great, and all the stuff that people do with Synchro and Fullcro is fantastic. But the end result is a video, and we started to think, okay, well, what if we can add in all the 3D Repo goodness into that 4D process and start to communicate the 4D to your general audience, but also pull their information back in. So if someone looks at your 4D and spots a health and safety risk, we want to be able to facilitate them pinning that into the model and saying, there, look, there it is, and we want to continue that so we can fix that problem. So I just want to leap back. We mentioned this on a few webinars, so I want to jump back to our founding principles. That is that BIM software is too complex. We create these knowledge silos. The interoperability between systems is hard, and that we think that data needs to be accessible with no proprietary data lock-in. So we really want to take these good processes that people have in the 4D world and start to push them out to a wider audience so that anyone on your project, armed with just a URL, can go in and start to review your 4D playback. So what does that give us? So we want to put 4D in the cloud, but what do we get as a result? We get to monitor health and safety risks in advance. So really trying to cut down, get to 0 incidents. Logistics concerns, you know, if the logistics manager is reviewing the 4D and starts to think, well, maybe that steel actually isn't going to come in on the date that we've got planned there, or the tower crane can't facilitate those movements, they can raise issues. Constructability issues, simply the order of construction is incorrect because you're showing this to more people and more eyeballs on it. That your supply chain strategy isn't good. So 4D from a high level, do your packages interface correctly to make sure that you're procuring the right package at the right time. And of course, that leads into work package allocation. And then reviewing alternative construction sequences. You know, 4D isn't a single thing. It could be a multitude of programs that all get us to the end result, but on different dates with different costs and things like that. So by distributing the 4D, we can drill down and find out what the best solution is to that. So that's planning collaboratively. What about building collaboratively? So while we're in the process of building, can we identify health and safety risks quicker? Can we facilitate look-ahead planning? So bring the 4D down to that kind of 3 to 8 week look-ahead process that's really meaningful, that really drives change on the project. Can we do an out of the window comparison? You know, am I sitting at my desk in my porter cabin? I look out the window. Does the state of the site match the state of the model that I'm looking at? Things like site inductions, obviously way more important today, that we can't have lots of people on site doing their site inductions very easily. So can we start to do virtual site inductions, show people the construction process without having them come to site or visit particular areas? And then again, constructability concerns. You know, we're halfway through construction. Is this looking like something we're actually going to be able to build, or is there an issue here? So then I'm going to quickly switch to a demo now. So bear with me as I switch my screens around. So this is the 3D repo everyone hopefully is familiar with. We've got health and safety risks dotted around. And the real unique thing here is that if I go to this health and safety risk here, click on this one. Sorry, having a slight problem there. Always a hiccup. So there we go. So that is a crane visibility problem. So you might be familiar with the way we use views in 3D repo. We can change color coding, we can hide and show elements. But what's really unique about this issue is that we've got the sequencing tab here. If I go to the start date of this issue, that's going to bring up my sequence and show you a timeline. So this model, although it's a traditional 3D model, you can see it in all the ways, you can use it in all the ways that 3D repo works normally. This has actually come from Synchro. So this is an SPM export from Synchro. We have a support area on our support portal, which will show you how to get those models out of Synchro. There's a few different ways you can do it, but that brings in all this 4D element, all the 4D elements into it. So if I just move out here, I can see my timeline here, and I can start to play through my timeline and see the construction process. So anyone with access to this 3D repo environment with this URL can immediately play back, zip around, stop the animation, zoom in. They can choose to raise their own health and safety risks. So if I raise a health and safety risk here, and let's just say it's to do with edge protection, and I add a pin in. And let's just say I save that there. Because these issues and risks as well have start dates and end dates, that means as you're phasing through the process, as you're playing through that time lapse, you're seeing health and safety issues appear and disappear. Because what we found is that a health and safety risk is actually time limited. It's not that during the whole construction phase, the same health and safety risks apply everywhere to everything. It's that certain health and safety risks occur at certain times. So we really wanted to improve that process to be able to tag those things up. And then obviously, once you've created this health and safety risk, you can still do all your commenting. So I can still sort of tag up colleagues and ask them if they can help. I can assign these issues to different people. So we can do all of the tracking that we're used to. The other thing I want to show everyone is that if we jump into the sequences here, I can actually review the whole program and search through it. So if I was looking for a particular column erection, I could search for erect columns in zone 4. That's going to bring up all of the details from Synchro from the program, which actually may have originated in Asta Power Project or P6 and come in that way. And then if I look at the plan finish date there, I can select that button and it's going to take me to the date in my timeline. So you see that shifted then when I did that. And likewise, if I go back to my activities and I take off my search, if I go back to the roof and I want to go to the pouring the concrete on the roof, again, go to the plan finish, and then all of a sudden my program zips forward and I can zip around this timeline however I want. I can play it through. And I can change to filter by hours. So if I have a really detailed section, I can start to look at it in hourly increments. If I want to look at it in days, months, years, even if we're going for a very long-term project like a nuclear power station or something like that. And I can also actually just go in and manually select a given date. So that's everything I wanted to show you with the 4D stuff. We are working with Balfour Beatty Vinci on the infrastructure stuff. So although this is a building project, please don't think this is a building only solution. We will be doing more work in the coming weeks to show off some more detailed features to do with 4D and some more detailed use cases. But in the meantime, I'm just going to switch back to my presentation so I can show you guys the next. Okay, so the next feature I want to show you, because we're not about releasing a single feature in some of these releases, is the Meta Search API. So for those of you out there that are familiar with our API systems, we have 180 endpoints at 3D Repo. So everything you can do in 3D Repo, you could do via our API. So that means that you can send a request to our server and receive a response without ever having to actually visit our website. So we've got this new search API, which means that if I took this model and I wanted to search, okay, show me any elements, return to me any elements where the category is column. So that's going to filter my model and just give me all the columns. And then that's going to send that back to me as a list, complete, just a pure data list. So I'm not seeing any visuals, just getting a list saying, okay, here's all the elements you've got that are columns. And we can extend that to say, okay, well, show me all the elements in this model that have a fire rating FD30 or FD60. And of course, this isn't limited to a model, because you can search through projects and team spaces. You can actually start to loop through all of your models. So you could say, okay, well, I want to find out every door of this particular type across all of my projects. So return that back to me. We could look to say, okay, well, show me anywhere where material contains steel, because I'm looking at steel prices and wondering what the impact's going to be on my business going forward, whether or not parameters exist or are blank. So if you have a model strategy that you're looking for your consultants to implement correctly, if you're expecting a type code on all of your models, you don't have to go and open the model. You can just send an API request to say, tell me anywhere where the type code is blank, and I know that I've now got a failure in my process. So that's the Meta Search API. This is the start of something we think is really powerful and really interesting. So we're really keen to see how some of our customers start to use these sorts of new APIs. We also have improved FBX texture support. So for those of you doing reality capture, we know that in the past, sometimes we've had FBX models that don't really come in too well. So we've spent some time to improve FBX support. So if you've got a point cloud converted to a mesh, you can bring that in and even include that alongside your 4D models to show off perhaps some of the more interesting details, so that your model isn't just kind of floating in space, because we know that's not too appealing. So we've improved that. And then for the final change, I'm going to hand over to our customer success manager, Bogdan, and he's going to take you through the next slide and do another little demo. Bogdan.
Hello, thank you. Hi guys, my name is Bogdan Davidov. I'm the customer success manager at 3D Repo. I work closely with all of our customers and also with the product management team, Matthew. So if we go to the next slide, I'll show you exactly the new features that we're gonna bring out. And those are the additional plugins for an Autodesk product suite, such as Autodesk Revit and Navisworks. We realized that since we're working remotely right now and everybody is perhaps not as knowledgeable about navigating BIM models, it becomes crucial to communicate across multiple design authoring tools and also connect to 3D Repo effectively. So what we're going to bring you an improved upload support. So now you'll be able to push models directly from Revit to 3D Repo without the need to export anything. So no time wasted there. You can share models with those that don't have licenses for Revit. You can also create risks and issues in our design authoring tools, such as Autodesk Revit and Navisworks. You can synchronize those, so you can retrieve any risk or issue from 3D Repo into your design authoring tool. And essentially, it's just an easier and better way to comment and collaborate across platforms. So perhaps if I maybe share my screen with you guys, I'll just show you exactly how it works, so it doesn't all look like it's plain text on paper. Okay, fantastic. Let's crack on with from here. So let's say, for instance, the scenario is such: you might be a structural engineer that is working with the team, or perhaps I might be an individual that is working in Autodesk Revit, right? So for instance, let's say this is my structural model, and I might have some particular queries In my case, it may well be, let's have a look around. We have some upstands in here, and then I noticed there are no upstands as we go along in the building. So I might have some questions about that. So how do I effectively communicate that to the team? Well, I can use the new set of tools in 3D Repo, such as our issues safety-based plugin. So for instance, for the issues viewer, I can just log myself in. Oh, apologies, incorrect password. There you go. So there you go. From here on, I'll have access to whatever project or team space I'm granted permissions. And I can navigate to maybe residential block. And in this particular case, I didn't want to dilute any of the consistent project existing here. I'm just going to create an example structure folder, and we'll show you how this project can evolve from the ground up. So for instance, I may well witness some kind of design discrepancy. I might say upstands missing. Do we need them as per level 00 and 01? So the good thing is I can then define my priority. I can then assign it to the relevant team if I want to. It could be for information. I could then define my time if I need to as well. And then I can even do an additional markup. So for instance, in this scenario, I might say, okay, well, this is what I'm talking about. So there are some missing areas in here, but there's also upstands on levels below. So I kind of want to question, do we need those or do we not? So once I've done this, so within a click of a few buttons, I raised this as an issue. Now it's become visible in 3D Repo. And the good thing is, once, let's say, my colleague, whoever it may be, working remotely, we're not dependent on each other or pieces of software that we all use, right? I don't have to dial in the meeting and have him navigate Revit model or Navisworks model for me. I can essentially log into 3D Repo, and then I can maybe go into this little work package that we're working on, and I can go and say, okay, fantastic. So he's sharing some information with me. So he's inquiring about those upstands or something like that. What I might say is, since I know that it is myself who raised it, I can then go and say, okay, Bogdan, we don't need them, ignore. Right, so I can comment that back. I'm creating a full audit trail, which is once again accessible in my design authoring tool. So if I jump back into this environment, as I'm navigating around the model, I might go and say, okay, let's check back on this status of the issue. I suddenly realize that there's a comment back saying we don't need them anymore, just ignore this issue. What could happen next is, in fact, the individual who was working on them before could then go and say, okay, I'm gonna close this issue. This can be done either in 3D Repo or, for instance, Revit environment. But the good thing is, let's say this is still open. I might want to comment something else and then say, can you share the model, please? And this is where we're going to elevate this level of collaboration, right? So I'm not just going to be blinded by this screenshot that somebody is providing me with. I can now actually get my hands on something far more crucial, which is the model itself, which is used for this coordination. So when I jump back to my Revit environment, right, I can then see all of these comments popping in. They're asking for a model. Okay, I'll do that. That's fine. I'm going to close this issue. So this is not an issue anymore. The next thing that I can do, which is particularly handy nowadays, is being able to effectively share your models without the need to waste too much time exporting them, losing data, geometry, and translation. So for instance, if we jump into our model publish area in here, I can define how much of my model I want to share, right? So the next thing I can do is I can actually use a publisher. So once again, I have all the information in here. I can then navigate to the space that I want to publish my model to. So for instance, residential block. We have our example structure here. And I might go and say, I'm going to publish revision 1, which is my initial upload. The good thing is now I actually have different levels of definition as well that I'm able to establish. So for instance, if you don't want too much of a detail, and quite often what we witnessed is sometimes people, download elements and drop them into their model, and then all of a sudden they eat up too much RAM or too heavy of a file because there's too much unnecessary detail. So you can actually define it prior to uploading. You might go high, but in this case, it's just structural elements. I don't need to see too much definition. So I might go medium. But the good thing is in here, I can then define how much of my model I want to share, right? So for instance, in this scenario, let's make it easier for me. I'll just go into orthographic view. I might go and say, well, if they're looking at superstructure, if this is something that they have requested, I can then go and hide those elements in view. And then perhaps maybe they're just only interested in this particular area of the model, right? So then I can publish just this particular selection directly to 3D Repo. So the good thing that happens is now I'm processing this 3D view, and now I'm actually uploading it to 3D Repo. So whoever it is that is working in 3D Repo, as you can see here, they have a full audit trail and communication directly with the individual working in the design authoring tool. But on top of that, notice that this little work package, discipline, whatever it may be, we are now processing a file. And that file is in fact the direct Revit upload. So as I was speaking, it probably took less than a minute, but now we notice there's a revision that came in just now. And the next thing I can do is I can actually see the information I need, right? So I'm no longer blinded. I'm no longer limited by inability to maybe use a complicated design authoring tool like Revit, or maybe not having the license for it in the first place. So right now, if I have 10 more project members that don't have access to these models, I can grant them as simple as this, you know, upload it, share it with them, encrypted website, secure location, you log in just like you would with, I don't know, Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and then you start communicating with everyone effectively. And the great thing is, should there be anything that is perhaps interesting for you to discover or review, you might want to say, okay, I've actually discovered another issue in this case. For instance, maybe this app stand needs rectifying, so I might want to raise issue in 3D Repo, increase height. And the good thing is, I actually can do some information takeoff from it. So it's not just me looking at 3D model fancily, you know, I can maybe measure some things as well and then say, okay, so this is 250 mil height. Maybe I want it to be 500. I can also query some information. So should there be any BIM data behind it, I can select element, I can see what level it is, what kind of attributes are to it, what kind of concrete it is. So all of this is now at my disposal, and I can easily navigate through all of this information without wasting too much time. I can raise this as a priority. I can assign it back to my structural team. This could be a design issue. If I want to, I can maybe add an additional markup, which is once again, is at my disposal within this platform. So once again, I can then say, okay, can we update this? So I save this as an issue. And the good thing is now the individual who didn't have the access to these to this model previously is able to work with you more effectively because they know what they're looking at, they know what they want to share with you. It's not just sending you a markup or a PDF plan that doesn't quite make sense. So right now, if I'm going back into my coordination view and I open up my issues plugin and I refresh it, instantly I see any kind of communication coming directly back from 3D Repo. So in here, I can instantly jump to that view. I can see what it is they're talking about. If there are any changes happening, it's easier for the person in 3D Repo to then check back if I publish a new model revision or anything like that. So the good thing is, as you can see, as this project evolves, you know, it becomes really crucial and important for you to navigate it effectively, right? So for instance, let's say this project evolves over time, and then all of a sudden we have various disciplines coming in. Those disciplines are now shared in 3D Repo as well. And the good thing is I then have a full audit trail of that in here as well. So anything that is particularly related to maybe, I don't know, some sort of asset information or something like that, you always know where it is, what I'm talking about. There's any kind of information like PDF plans or maybe links to websites. It's all here once again. So your 3D Repo cloud becomes that single source of truth that you can leverage across different platforms. So this is essentially issue tracking elevated to the next level with the ability to share models. Another thing that we have added also is the safety-based plugin, which is particularly useful because safety-based is looking at health and safety and risk management, which is great to do it in the web browser now. Finally, people are able to do it in 3D model environment. But the next thing is How can they rectify it quickly in their design authoring tool once people have been able to visualize it in 3D Reaper? Well, safety-based plugin will allow you to do that, exactly that. Once again, I'll be able to navigate to whatever model it is. So for instance, we're going to look at this safety-based module. So should there be any risk, all the information resides here. All of this information could be maybe raised within design model or not. If it is, for instance, raised within the design model, you'll instantly navigate to that area. So in this case, I noticed that actually my camera position is changing because I'm realizing that I'm actually looking at something that is linked directly to this model. They're talking about structural model in here. Perhaps in my view, I can then go and say, okay, let's just isolate my structural model so I can see the problem they're talking about. And you have, once again, your full communication tool at your disposal. So any kind of like view or anything like that that somebody's sharing with you, it's no longer just a static screenshot. It changes the camera position for you as well, so that you can quickly and easily identify the issue. But the better thing is here you will be able to even utilize treatment suggestions as well. This is one thing that we've been doing in 3D Repo, is being able to leverage your knowledge base. So your single source of truth is in the cloud, and no longer you're looking at Excel or trying to send emails back and forwards. You're able to leverage everything. And then in here, I can then go and say, okay, I want to eliminate this health and safety risk. I'm going to use the database in 3D Repo to quickly see the risk in my design authoring tool, and then propose the treatment suggestion that is defined by my health and safety team. So just to finalize this, of course, this will be available for your Navisworks as well. So should I have a Navisworks model available for me, there is a set of plugins as well available in Navisworks. So similarly to that, I can log myself in. Apologies. So I can log myself in. From then on, I can just navigate to whatever project I may be looking at. And then from here, I can once again scroll through the list, maybe go to a particular model area, have a look what it is they're talking about, review its current status. Perhaps the opening is provided in here. It wasn't in the past. So this new model revision that I have federated has it. So I'm just going to close it off. I'm happy with it. Should I see any clash or an issue in Navisworks, once again, I can raise this directly in here as well. So the UI is consistent across the tools, so you won't have to go through steep learning curves, you know, when you switch between the applications as well. So that's about it, pretty much in a nutshell. Essentially, as you can see, within clicks of a few buttons, without consuming too much time, we're able to leverage effective tools, not just for raising issues, but also visualizing them in context. And that's far more crucial for being able to resolve them effectively and quicker as well. I'll conclude it here and I'll pass it back over to Matt. Thank you.
Great, thanks Bogdan. That was really good. So I think we've definitely shown that we've, hang on, sorry, just going to switch over to back to my screen. Yeah, so that's really shown off a few different features that we're presenting in this new update. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn our webcams on and we're going to have a chat with Harry from Balfour Beatty. So Andrew's got some questions for him, and we've also got a few questions coming in from the chat. So let me just go back to this.
Hi everyone, thanks very much for that, Matt and Bogdan, really great demo. And so today we're now joined by Harry Parnell from Balfour Beatty Vinci. So the reason for that is that this development, the Synchro development, like a lot of the stuff we do in 3D Repo, hasn't been done in isolation by ourselves. We have been working very closely with Harry and the team at Balfour Beatty Vinci on the HS2 project. And HS2 have been involved themselves as well in terms of providing the funding for the development. So like a lot of our developments, it's done as a team effort on a real life project use case. So Harry, do you want to quickly introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you do?
Yep, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So Harry Parnell, Head of Digital Project Delivery for Balfour Beatty. Been working in the ASC sector now for over 15 years. And I get involved in implementing production method and procedures across all our Balfour Beatty major projects and highway schemes. A bit about HS2 Area North. So if we look at sort of like the UK map, we are currently sort of working that to the northern section, and we are basically working that from Long Litchington into Birmingham city centre and up and out to Rugeley, kind of out in the north to short of Stafford. So that's the area kind of working on for HS2, 97 kilometres in length and we have around about over 1,000 assets that we're going to be constructing from over bridges, under bridges, etc.
Okay, and how did this initial project come about within Balfour Beatty for doing the Synchro integration?
So it all started around about 2 years ago, and what we basically looked at was we kind of was using different applications for different processes, and what we wanted to do was actually have one single portal where we can basically do design resolution, safety reporting, and methods. So from looking at sort of what was obviously going on with 3D Repo and our involvement with i3P, we thought we'd best to partner kind of out with 3D Repo and Synchro to try and merge the applications together to give us that full methods review inside of the platform.
And what do you think HS2 get out of it as a client? What's the benefit to them?
So one of the key things in that while we went for funding with HS2 was it fully aligned in that to their standard sort of KPIs, which they're measuring us all contractors and our contracts. So with the platform and the application, it helps us manage our risk. It helps us be safe because obviously it's reviewing our methodologies. We can share this information with obviously customers and other stakeholders, so we're delivering respectfully on time, so we can basically showing that the progress which is occurring. But the key thing is that collaboration with all partners. So we've got HS2, us as contractors, the designers and stakeholders. So it gives us this one portal to the project, which helps us kind of not have to install multiple applications on everyone's machines as well. So it's really beneficial and easy to deploy and that across everybody and easy to train people up on.
And obviously it's a really long project that you've got here, and it's really just kicking off in earnest now in terms of construction stage. But what's next in terms of the digital side of it? Have you got any other plans that you're working on or that you need to implement in the near future?
So there's a full net sort of BIM execution plan for us up in HS2 area north, which we're sort of getting all our systems and that in place, procured and configured for us on the digital frontier. But the key thing is now kind of obviously the 3D Repo platform, and that is working with sort of the team, is looking at some of our critical assets and that we actually have, and basically deploying this out now kind of for that into our actual sort of on-site collaboration meetings and workshops and that to basically review the design, review the program, and obviously eliminate as many safety risks as possible. But for the future and that kind of thing, that maybe there's other stuff we're talking to 3D Repo about at the moment in time, which we can give more details on in the future.
Mm-hmm. So we've had a question come in. It's probably a good one for you to kind of answer as well. We know you can obviously assign risks and issues directly in Synchro. So what's the advantage of having it in 3D Repo as well?
Like I said, kind of that, if with the merging there, kind of that, with the use of Synchro and that, you need to basically deploy all the Synchro sort of the viewer, the Synchro sort of applications in there. You need to install the server, and that's been sort of problematic in the past. The lesson learned is you need to be on the same version of Synchro. But with 3D Repo kind of thing, that you just have it all simply on the web portal, so you can put the risks inside of there, and that can be shared back. So it is again going back to that single portal is the key why we've sort of done this development work.
Yeah, I think it's the same reason as why 3D Repo even exists in the first place. Why doesn't everyone have Revit to view their models? Mainly because it's overkill for most people, right? If you're not a designer, you don't need Revit. You just need a way to view and manage your data. And I think the same thing with 4D as well, right? Not everyone needs a Synchro license because not everyone is doing the planning. Most people are just reviewing and wanting to do that collaborative bit as well.
No, you're absolutely right there, Andy, because the key thing is there for us and the construction team and that we've got site engineers, section engineers and agents. We don't want to give them sort of the whole Synchro platform kind of thing on there. And plus we want to give them just one application. We don't want to train them up in sort of like, oh, here's the model viewer, here's the 4D viewer, here and that kind of thing, that is the risk system. We want to try and merge it all together and that to make it easy kind of thing for people to adopt.
I think sometimes as well in our kind of digital engineering bubble, we forget that a lot of people don't have exposure to these tools and they don't know what Synchro versus Navisworks versus Revit is. So by just giving them a URL and sending them to 3D Repo, we can kind of introduce a whole group of people outside of that bubble to this process.
Yeah, I fully agree, Matt.
Do we have any other questions, Matt? Has anything else come in?
So there's one, we've got one about Gantt charts. So obviously a lot of people are used to seeing 4D represented or programs represented as Gantt charts. That's not something we've currently introduced in 3D Repo because based on our research, we found that searching through the activity list is enough for a lot of people, but it's certainly something that if we, again, going back to that concept of sort of agile and lean development, is that if enough people ask us for something, we fit our roadmap around our customers. So if people want Gantt charts and that's what everyone wants, then, you know, down the road we can start to implement that. But we think that we've got the kind of a good use case in the middle there to be able to let people search, adjust the dates, and move things around.
Yeah, there's another really interesting question here about cost, which I know is something that's quite close to your heart, Matt. Do you want to cover that integration of cost?
Cost management, is that?
Is it just, can you integrate cost? So I guess.
Yeah. So what's interesting about 3D Repo, and we do a lot of work with Power BI, is being able to extract all the data that's in that database out to other tools. So you've got a 3D element which has a bunch of attributes associated to it, and now we've got that Synchro data. We also have an installation date or a production date or whatever other dates that we may have associated with it. Now, if you then have a secondary data source such as a cost management platform, you pull those two data sets in and match them up. You now know how much something costs, when it's going to be produced, and you can visualize that in 3D Repo. So basically what we're saying is by exposing as much data as we can, and we really are exposing every single bit of information in 3D Repo through our APIs, you can go off to other platforms and link in as much or as little as you want. So the opportunities are pretty endless.
Mm-hmm. And how does that fit on your project? I know cost is something we have been speaking about, and how we integrate this all in. What is the link there for you between the 4D and the cost scheduling stuff?
Yeah, so for HS2 Area North and that, we've tried to basically keep aligned in that the level of informational need or level of detail comes between the design, the cost, and the program. So as long as you've got that there, so the design that is generating your quantities, the quantities go into your estimation tool. The estimation tool will basically give you then your cost loaded program inside of our P6. And from the P6, then kind of you can link that back into Synchro. So from that there, and as you saw kind of from the demo and that which Matt showed, the costs are blanked out. You can actually see the attribution there if you want to show the costs. So yeah, so it is basically you'll be able to see the costs and that for activities inside the platform as well as you've basically got a cost loaded program.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, Matt?
I'm just checking the list there.
If anyone has got any, please send them in now. Harry, just while we're waiting for other questions to come in, how do you plan on deploying the project? How do you plan on 3D Repo being used on the project? I know we've obviously done the mission room integration, so.
Yeah, so the key thing, as you rightly said there, Andy, kind of for that, we do actually have a mission room up at HS2 Area North, and you might have seen some of the actual images kind of for that as well. So that is what we want to do, is take some of our critical assets that we have using a 3D Repo platform, developing the 4D model and put it into that mission room setup. And that's when kind of we get sort of full collaboration with our teams to basically review the designs, review the assets, review the safety methods. And that's what we're going to be doing over the next sort of couple of months, and sort of just building up on that sort of the case studies there. HS2 Area North is a very big scheme, but obviously there's some on our critical path. So they're the ones we want to focus on to make sure we hit our key dates for our client.
And obviously with it being web browser based, it means we can get everyone involved as well, right? Because I know, I suppose you're having more problems with people not being in the office at the moment, and probably cramming people into little 3D boxes isn't the best thing to do right at this moment as well.
No, exactly, kind of at the moment in time, and our offices are currently open, and we've got full sort of COVID sort of security and risk assessments are being done all the time. But as you're rightly saying, that with people working remotely and that kind of thing, it's ideal again, kind of thing, to help again review the designs, review the methods, review the risks, all in a platform, all from our home and that as well. So we can obviously have that sort of functionality there, and getting everyone's comments in one central portal to basically drive down the risks, and also kind of look at new methods that we might want to do for the projects to make us more lean and more efficient and beat our program.
And I guess that leads on to an interesting question for Bogdan, actually, is because given your architectural background, do you think that in the age of working remotely that those plugins we've got into Revit now help speed up that process and reduce the time to information?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I think with the fact that everyone's restricted and being together in a room. I mean, from my experience in the past, I always had to navigate the model for somebody, right? it's not really ideal because that person kind of gets handhold experience, you know, but as soon as they leave the environment, they forget how to do it themselves. So the more exposure they can get using simple tools, the more they will understand about this whole Synchro, BIM, data, and everything like that. That's important to introduce it at a good entry level like that and communicate it back.
We've got another question, Matt, about other plugins. So do we have other plugins on the way? Are we looking at ProjectWise, not ProjectWise, MicroStation, other type of authoring tools?
So the goal of 3D Repo, where we're hoping to get to, is to become the place that you put your models. Basically, we want to be the repository for your stuff. And the more platforms we support, the quicker we can get there. So obviously, we started with kind of IFC, hoping that everyone would just provide everything in IFC, but we all know that's not necessarily the case. So we're moving towards Civils. That's currently Civils, AutoCAD Civils 3D. Is currently under development, and then we're also looking at the Bentley suite, so we can start to plug in with, like you say, Andrew, MicroStation and those sort of DGN style platforms as well. So we're really, and again, we're receptive to customer feedback. So if people are banging down our door saying we're using platform X, we really want to plug in, then we can focus our attention over there.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, we already support DGN directly for Bentley anyway, so it's the issues and risk stuff that we're working on next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, good. I think that pretty much brings us to the end then, if there's no more questions. Obviously, this is all out now and available. So if you do want to use it, you can sign up for a free account at 3drepo.com. And the plugins are available on the website, are they, Bogdan? They're not on the Autodesk App Store yet, but they will be soon, I presume.
Mm-hmm. They will be,
so
yes.
they're available. Yeah, so they're available through our website on 3drepo.com to download. And yeah, if you do have any questions or need any help from us, please do drop us an email, support@3drepo.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Harry, thanks very much for joining us today, and thanks very much for your support on the project. Hopefully we can have you back in a couple of months' time to maybe talk about how it's actually gone and look at more of how it's been deployed. We'll go from there. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you all.
Okay, awesome. Thanks very much, guys. Speak soon. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Just bye-bye.